Welcome to another episode of Fougere Family Adventures. Today, join me on episode 2 of how to catch salmon. Now, I've been asked by quite a few people this season how to catch salmon. What am I using? What is the most effective method of catching fish? I would like to take this opportunity to talk about bottom bouncing exclusively. In episode 2, I will expand on episode 1, and I will talk a little bit more in depth about bottom bouncing. Now, many people think that people who are bottom bouncing are trying to floss fish. That is not always the case. Most people here are using a longer leader for sockeye because they're going on the theory that sockeye do not bite. In episode 1, we talked about pencil lead. And if you're not sure what pencil lead is and how I use it, go back and take a look at episode 1. Watch through it. I show you how I tie it up, how I use it. And to expand on that, I tell you that pencil lead needs to be straight. You also need to keep your rod up at a 45-degree angle. And by doing this, you're tapping that pencil lead along the bottom as it goes down the river. If you let your line go slack or your pencil lead is not straight, it will hang up in rocks a lot easier. So keeping that pencil lead straight and your line tight is extremely important when you're bottom bouncing. There is a second way to bottom bounce, and that is by using bouncing betties. Essentially, bouncing betties are a piece of lead. They are attached to a swivel, a snap swivel I should say, and I just hook them right up to a regular swivel. Now, most people will use a 3-way swivel with bouncing betties, and that works too. I just prefer a single swivel and it works. This here is a 1-ounce bouncing betty. People who are fishing the Fraser River use 2-ounce, 3-ounce just to keep your weight down. You want this weight to be bouncing along the bottom, but not dragging all the way along the bottom. That way, you'll know that you are staying close to the bottom and in the fish zone. Now, when you're bottom bouncing, in episode 1, I taught you how to cast. I'm basically casting straight out from me. I see a lot of anglers when they're new to salmon fishing, they cast way upriver, or if they're trying to get into a drift, if they're not in the right spot, they're casting way upriver. What's happening there, if you don't keep your line tight, you are going to be more susceptible to hanging up on bottom and losing your gear. So even with the bouncing betty, I'm going to go back, I'm going to cast it out straight, lock my reel in place, and keep my line up at a 45. I'm going to follow that all the way down the river, and if a fish bites, I'll feel it tap, and I can set the hook. That is basically all it is. If that bouncing betty or your pencil lead stops bouncing on the bottom, either the river's deeper there, or your weight has lifted up and you're no longer close to the bottom. That'll happen a lot if you're in fast water when the weight lifts up. Deeper water, not so much. Now, I touched on float fishing in episode 1. Float fishing is by far the most popular method of fishing for salmon in the lower mainland region. This is my Berkeley rod. This is an 8-foot, 9-foot rod. It is used for bottom bouncing. I use it a lot in my videos for lake trout fishing as well. And the shorter rod gives me a lot more sensitivity, a lot more backbone to set the hook. This rod's 20 years old. It's caught hundreds of fish. It was rated for 50-pound test line when I bought it, and I'm super happy with it. Find a nice rod that you can feel that bottom, a nice stiff rod, and you'll be able to bounce bottom if you're fishing for fish this way. Now, like I've said before, people who bottom bounce are viewed as people who don't know what they're doing, or people who are just trying to floss a fish or get a fish to bite. Like I said, that's not always the case. Pink salmon will bite readily a corky that is bottom bounced down the river. When you have a weight and a 1 or 2 foot leader, the weight's on the bottom over here, and it lifts up, and it's in the strike zone, this corky, it floats, and those pink salmon come up and strike it, steelhead strike it. We also use, or I use, spin and glows and hoochies combined. It's a new method I picked up 20 years ago up in Kitimat. I didn't think it was going to work, but it's extremely effective. A spin and glow with a 2-inch hoochie and a 5-aught hook. It sounds crazy, but spring salmon and chum salmon go absolutely bonkers for these things when you bottom bounce correctly. I am fishing a section of the river where nobody is here. If you are fishing with other anglers, there's a few things to keep in mind. If I'm casting like this, I want to be watching for lines of other anglers so that I'm not casting over top of them or hooking their line and taking them out of the water. Everyone has taken the time out of their day to be here, and nobody wants to be out of the water untying knots. Even if you do cast close to somebody, as long as you are following the principles of bottom bouncing, casting out, locking it, leaving your rod up, everyone can usually fish in unison, and usually you can fish without minimal tangles. I am used to fishing the Vetter River or the Chilliwack River, the Fraser River, where there's hundreds of people and you're shoulder to shoulder. It's no fun. Like, let's be honest, nobody loves fishing shoulder to shoulder. But when there's a limited resource in a limited area, everyone wants to try and catch a fish. The problem with that is when you have people on one side and they're tangling, people on another side, you're all casting into the middle, people can get a little bit aggravated with each other and think that somebody should be doing something that they want to do and the other person is not understanding what they want. When you're fishing with multiple people, if you're new at it, let them know. Say, hey, I'm new at this. I'm not really sure what to do. If you see something that I should try, please let me know. One way to do it. Another thing to do is bottom bouncing. If you're going to bottom bounce, fish with other people that are bottom bouncing. If you have people who are float fishing and you're bottom bouncing with float fishermen, it's extremely difficult for a float fisherman to know where your line is. They can't see your line half the time because when they're casting out, a float fisherman is looking for a float in the water. Also, when you're casting out, your path of your weight in the water is more of an arc, like this, and the path of a float is more straight down the river. So they don't mix. Float fishing and bottom bouncing do not mix. So keep that in mind. If you're out here and someone's float fishing, maybe give them some space. And if you're bottom bouncing and a float fisherman comes up to you or your area, understand that that might affect how you're drifting. So another tip, if you're new to bottom bouncing, or if you want to just get along with the anglers that are fishing in the section of river that you're at, something to keep in mind, a word of advice, if everyone is fishing and everyone's having a hard time, the best thing to do is the angler who's on the bottom end of the run or who reels in first, the bottom person should cast first. Then the person who's upstream casts. And if I cast and someone else above me casts, we won't tangle. So you can fish happily together. One guy casts and the next guy casts. It doesn't really matter as long as you're watching where the person's line is. It can be difficult in the sun, difficult in low light conditions. So if you're casting first and you're downstream, or if you're upstream, let the person below you cast first, then cast. You'll get along much easier with the people you're fishing with, and you'll have a lot less tangles and spend more time in the water. So to recap, I use two different types of weights when I'm bottom bouncing: pencil lead and bouncing betties. They are both a form of lead, and they work effectively if fished correctly. Pencil lead is great because you can adjust how much weight you're using depending on if the water is fast or slow. Bouncing betties are great because they come in different sizes, and depending on the part of the river you're fishing, you can upsize or you can downsize an ounce. I think they have an 1.5 ounces. They have 2-ounce bouncing betties. This is a 1-ounce bouncing betty. They come in 1.5 ounce, 2 ounce, 3 ounce. But when you're fishing a smaller river like this, a 1 ounce is more than enough in most locations. In fact, it's almost too much. Usually it is. And to recap, the person downstream, if you cast first and then the person above you casts, you'll have less tangles. Now you can't tell the other angler what to do, but you can work with them to be efficient, effective, and keep both of your lines in the water more often than not. Keep away from slow moving water if you are in rocky areas like this. That slow moving water, your weights will get tangled amongst these rocks. You might lose your gear. We don't want to lose gear in the river. Keep that lead out of the river. Keep your hooks and your garbage and your waste out of the river. And don't forget about the arc that you have when you're bottom bouncing. It's actually turning, right? When you're float fishing, it's straight, and when you're bottom bouncing, it actually curves downriver a bit. Now, always cast straight out. Don't be casting too far upriver. Number one, you can get snagged on bottom a lot easier. And number two, you can snag with other anglers and you could cause trouble that way. Another thing I should mention with bottom bouncing, don't let your line go out, lock it in place, drift, and then reel in. Reel in when your rod is about 45 degrees or so below you when the bounce starts getting more, because you'll snag up the closer to shore you get in the shallows. Don't let your line out, because people downstream, you'll hook them, you'll cause them grief, and you won't be able to fish in unison with other anglers on the river. Now, one thing I see a lot of is anglers pulling their fish onto the beach. We can't be doing this. If you're not allowed to retain that fish, leave it in the water. Give that fish the best chance of survival by leaving him in the water, allowing his protective slime to stay on him. If you pull him up on the shore and he's bouncing around, I saw it the other day, a person caught a Chinook. They brought it up onto shore. By the time I realized what was going on, it was too far away anyway, he had put it back in the water. Know the species that you're chasing. When you get them close to shore, identify your fish. If you are allowed to retain your fish, bring them onto shore. Some people drag them onto shore that way, or some people use a net. So make sure you know your species before you pull them onto shore. Make sure you have an allowable retention limit. Make sure you have the proper tags. Make sure you have your freshwater fishing license. Make sure you have your non-tidal salmon tag as well. If you don't have those two things, and if the river is not open for salmon fishing, you cannot retain a salmon in fresh water. Now, in episode 1, I had really light line on. I'm pretty sure it ended up being 10-pound test that I was using for jigging for lake trout. I changed it up. I found some old 30-pound test line. It's really thick. I usually use 15 or 20 Maxima Ultra Green. That is my favorite fishing line that is out there. And I'll use a 15-pound test leader. Abrasion resistance. If you are using a thicker leader, like I am, I've now upgraded to a 30-pound test line that I had kicking about that I used, I think, from Hawaii many, many years ago. 30-pound test line will have more abrasion resistance on it. When you're bottom bouncing and you're nicking rocks and you're hitting rocks, you're going to get nicks in your line. It will weaken your line. Make sure you're checking your leader line often. Check it for nicks. If you have too many nicks in it, replace it. Otherwise, you could end up losing that fish that you've been sitting and fishing all day for. There are a few different things you can use to catch salmon on the end of your line. The first thing you can use is yarn, like we talked about in episode 1. I was using chartreuse. Today I'm using pink. I had my limit of sockeye, so I've switched over to pink for pinks. I haven't seen any pinks caught yet, but pink works really well for sockeye and pinks. I just prefer chartreuse in this water because it sticks out better. Now, for yarn, we are in sockeye and pink season, but we do have some really great seasons coming up here. We have coho, chum, we have the white springs of the Vetter. All sorts of different species of salmon can be caught bottom bouncing. Now, the other species other than sockeye, are almost more effectively fished with a float. That being said, I have done very well in Kitimat. I have also bottom bounced on the Vetter with a really short leader and that Spin and Glow Hoochie combo, but I got some kind of strange looks, so I ended up going back to float fishing and doing just fine. These are the different yarns. Now I don't have all the colors here. You can get many different colors. We have this color here, a little peachy color. We have pinks. We have kind of a light roe orange color. We have a nice cream, nice light color here. We have another shrimp pink, that's one of my favorites. And we have white. Now we talked in episode 1 about mixing yarn colors. These two colors here or any other color, you can actually combine them. So you cut a small piece off of this, small piece off of this, pull them apart a bit, mix them up a bit. This acts as kind of an egg sac covering. It looks really good. You mix and match, trim them to look like an egg, and mixing and matching different colors can be very effective. Now play around with your colors of yarn. A peach color, a kind of pinkish color for a pinkish color like that for, this is shrimp pink for chum, peach color for coho. Different colors work for different species, and every river system is different. You can use yarn in the Fraser Valley. You can try it like I did up in Kitimat and it won't work. So you need to shift what you're using for different river systems in the province. Kitimat region use lots of Spin and Glows and Hoochies. Different colors of those for different species. I'll show you those right now. So this is my Spin and Glow and Hoochie box. This is one of many. Now, like we talked about, I have different colors. You can use a pink Spin and Glow, like that, by itself. That's a Spin and Glow. I like the little silver mylar wings. I like that black stripe. These are hard to come by, or at least they were when I started looking for them. I've got that in a green. It's another great color. Use that for chum. I used to have it in yellow, and those work really good for springs. But now I found these, they're not quite the same. For whatever reason, they don't do as good of a job. And I have a Spin and Glow in blue. That's good for coho. So you put the Spin and Glow on, and then you put a Hoochie behind it, just like we would use for, say, kokanee fishing. That's a blue Hoochie, 2.5 inch Hoochie, blue and silver. Use that for coho. Then for chum, you can use a green. That works pretty good. And of course, for pinks, you can use little pink Hoochies, and you combine that with the Spin and Glow and a large hook. This is a size 6-aught Maruto hook. This is a barbless hook. And I would put a Hoochie on that. I'd put a bead underneath it, and the hook would sit in here, so it would push this back a bit. And you want that back a bit. And then I would put a Spin and Glow in front of this. And I'll try and mix them up at home one of these days to show you what we're using. You would think that something like that for Chinook or chum might be a little too big in a river if you're from the Lower Mainland, but you fish the Kitimat region, the Skeena, big hooks are being used up there. Don't quite work as well in the Lower Fraser tributaries and the Fraser River for some reason. Smaller hooks are better, but this is another method to use for bottom bouncing. So I hope you like this video. I hope this video gives you a little bit more information about how to catch salmon, what to use, what am I using, and I hope you can get out there. And like I've heard already this weekend, you just need to put the time in. If you're not out here and you're not putting the time in, you're not learning, you'll never learn. YouTube's great, but you need to get out here and learn, make a cast. If you're not sure, and you got cell service, you got your phone with you, bring out this video, take a look, see what's going on, see what to use. Give yourself some reminders. Cast straight out, always cast straight out, lock your line, let it bounce. Talk to other anglers. There's a lot of people that are out here that will be willing to help you. There are also a lot of people that will get very aggressive. There are people that will be upset if you're in their space. So give everyone space, Make sure you give each other a little bit of space. Talk to them. Hey, am I too close? What do you think of this? And come fishing. I don't care if you come out and fish right beside me. I'm totally fine with it. But I do enjoy my space as well. Now, I hope this video has helped you learn how to catch salmon, how to fish for salmon. Stay tuned for a few more videos coming up that I hope will help you learn how to catch salmon. And if you enjoy them, please like and subscribe.